The study and insights into the ancient mystery of the development of a human brain remains one of our generation's greatest achievements. A baby's mind is where it all began or begins. Early childhood education is an important step in educating young minds and offering stimulating opportunities for exploring and learning. Here to tell us more about the evolution of early childhood development and what the future looks like for the sector, we have the Director of the Center for Early Childhood Development and Associate Professor at the Department of Education Policy Studies at the University of Stellenbosch, Professor Eric Atmore. Good morning, Professor, and thank you for joining me.
Mariam, good morning to you. It's lovely to see your face again, and good morning to your listeners.
Likewise, Professor. Before we get into the evolution of early childhood development, let us first try and understand what is early childhood development and the history behind it.
Early childhood development is a process. There are a range of programs that enhance early childhood development, but it's simply the processes by which young children grow and thrive and develop. The common forms of early childhood development programs, or the common terminology used, is educare center, preschool, nursery school, kindergarten, daycare. These are all different words, but they essentially mean the same thing: an opportunity for young children to grow and thrive and develop. And in these institutional forms, it happens outside the home. But we know that early childhood development happens from conception through a healthy pregnancy of the mother, a good supportive environment from the father and the family, and going into community support. So it's a very broad process, but it's not defined by daycare or early childhood development center. Those are simply the institutional forms.
Mm-hmm. Right, Professor, I'm glad that you mentioned that because many of the times when we think about early childhood development, our mind already goes towards the daycare centers, the ECD centers, where our children are going to go and learn to become somebody in life, etc. But they can actually learn at home, and it's up to us as parents to instill their early childhood development before we can actually take them out to the centers to learn and interact with others. Now, you mentioned or you mentioned educare centers, kindergarten, and daycare. Now, what is Montessori? I just found out yesterday that Montessori was actually named after someone. Now, is this another type of institution, or is it a type of learning?
No, if you look across the world, there are different curricula. And Maria Montessori, who was a medical doctor in Italy more than 100 years ago, she found some interesting things with young children, and she developed an approach to early development. So you have a range of approaches to early childhood development. You have many theorists, Piaget, Vygotsky, various theorists who've come up with a theory of child development. And many of those are of long standing, and many of them are still valid, but we learn new things every single day about children. Perhaps the greatest learning in the past 2 decades has been about brain development of young children. Now, with modern technology and capability, we are learning phenomenal things about how the brain develops. I remember many years ago being told by a professor at Venda University that children start learning at the age of 3. Now, that thinking is so outdated. Children start learning from or during pregnancy. Children can pick up all sorts of emotions of the parents, and children emerge in this world ready to learn from day one. If you look at a young baby, her eyes are moving the whole time. Her body, her hands are moving the whole time. She responds to various stimulation, and she responds differently to different people. So learning begins during conception, following conception, all the way through. And it's a fallacy to think that children go to an ECD center to learn. They go there and learning is part of the process. But for many people around the world, the best learning environment for young children is the home, and the first and primary teachers are the mother and the father.
Mhm. It's no wonder you hear some parents complaining that their kids aren't learning anything at the ECD centers because it's supposed to start at home. So once it starts at home, then you can take them to an ECD center where they will learn something. Now, what are the areas of development in early childhood that parents and caregivers should be aware of?
Okay, there are four main areas. The one is social development, and that is young children mixing with others, not only with other children, but also with adults, people they don't know, the shopkeeper, the taxi driver. That's all part of a child's socialization. Then you get the emotional side, and this is where children develop their emotions, the ability to control your behaviors. You learn to be happy. You learn that on occasion you will be sad. These are all the emotional elements. Then you get the physical development. This is the advancing and the growth of big muscles, children climbing on climbing frames, on jungle gyms, up trees, over walls. And the last is the cognitive development, and it's not in that order. I'm just setting them out separately. And this is the development of the brain, of the intellect, learning how to solve problems, learning how the world works. So these four, social, emotional, cognitive, and physical, when they come together in a loving, caring environment, in the home, in the family, in the community, and in other institutions in society, then that child will thrive. The child obviously needs good health and feeding, adequate nutrition, the appropriate nutrition to thrive. And if those elements are all present, that child will generally thrive in her growth. It's where some of them are missing and where there's trauma and toxicity in the child's environment. For example, a young baby who's in a family where there's a lot of discord and arguing and fighting and animosity, that child picks this up immediately and it impacts on that child. And that impact can be lifelong.
Wow, just thinking about it, I mean, there's so much that we do that our kids pick up on, and it's just like, you know, to us we think no, they're just kids. They don't worry about it. They're not gonna listen. They're not gonna learn or anything. But they're actually picking it up. Even the energy around that. That's what they pick up. That's why some babies cry when they feel that the energy is not it's not the right energy for them. How has early childhood development and education evolved through the years?
If we go back, the first early childhood development centers and programs really took root in about the 1930s. And this was after the Carnegie investigation into what was then called white poverty. Poor white South Africans who had come through a war, a colonial war, and were really oppressed. And a commission was set up, funded by the Carnegie Foundation. And one of the outcomes of that was the start of a system of early learning programs for young white children. And I want to stress that for the next 60 years, provision was racially biased in favor of white children, and for black African children, there was virtually nothing. You remember the grand dream of Wut and apartheid was that black South Africans would live in their homelands and they would look after themselves. And Wut made that infamous statement in the 1950s about why educate a black child? Why teach a black child mathematics if he's never going to use it? And he's only ever going to be a laborer and supply his labor to the white community. So it started off very slowly, but with the influence of Head Start in America. Remember, Head Start was a massive program that started in the 60s with the aim of providing early learning opportunities for young children. That had an influence in South Africa, and it's grown and grown, so much so that today we have about 32,000 early childhood development centers across the country. We have just under 200,000 predominantly women caring for these children. Some of our early childhood centers are world class, and others leave a lot to be desired. But we've come a long way, and we have a longer way to go. There's by no sense of the imagination can we say that the needs of young children are met. Not whilst they are falling in pit latrines and drowning, or they are stunted, nutrition deficient, or when they get caught up in gang violence in communities and end up with bullets in their bodies and they have to be buried. So we've got a long way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Professor, let's take a quick break and we will continue thereafter.
Many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal's Breakfast Club aim to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend the day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner by visiting our website on www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Little bare feet on the icy wet ground, a shiver at his lips, mud on his clothes. When he is cold, the hunger is worse, the nights are longer, and the pain is more severe. What if this was your child? The Al-Imdad Foundation's Global Winter Appeal allows you to make a difference for refugees, IDPs, and struggling communities in 21 countries globally. Sponsor a winter pack today for just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Your act of love gives hope. Islamic Relief supports orphans and vulnerable children in 28 countries with food, education, and medical care. There are more than 150 million orphans in the world. You can give hope to one. Sponsor an orphan today. Go to www.islamic-relief.org.za.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Salam Media. It is 11:20. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Mukwanda. Healthy development in the early years, particularly birth to 3, provides the building blocks for educational achievement, economic productivity, responsible citizenship, lifelong health, strong communities, and successful parenting of the next generation. We are talking the future of early childhood education and development with Professor Eric Atmore. Professor, thank you for staying on the line. Now, what approach is the Center for Early Childhood Development taking with regards to making a meaningful difference in South Africa's early childhood education sector?
The approach we take is child-centered. It has to be. The whole focus has to be on the child, and that's where the impact needs to be made. But we work with early childhood development centers and early childhood development programs, building the capacity of those ECD principals and teachers, providing physical buildings, providing building upgrades, providing learning materials, because learning materials are important, doing teacher training, because the training certainly helps in the program at the Early Childhood Development Center. Then we also help centers to get registered and subsidized. Every single Early Childhood Development Center that takes 7 or more children has to be registered under the Children's Act. So this is often a cumbersome and difficult process, and the inefficiencies in local municipalities and in the provinces certainly doesn't help. So we help these centers to get registered, and we help them to apply for the subsidy, which is 17 Rand per child per day for 264 days, provided the parents qualify on a means test. So broadly, that's the activities focusing on teachers and children. We also do a lot of advocacy work, and that is speaking to politicians, business, corporate social investments about the importance of early childhood development. The things, Mariam, that you mentioned a few minutes ago that are so critical. And then lastly, we do a lot of policy work for either municipalities or for the province or for national government. And over the 27 years of our existence, we've been involved in most policy initiatives in the country. I want to make a comment about the National Integrated Early Childhood Development Policy that our country has. Mm-hmm. It is an absolutely brilliant, outstanding policy. It's integrated, it's comprehensive, and it's been drawn up by colleagues of ours around the country. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's not been implemented anywhere near what we require. And that is part of the absence of political will, the absence of the will of politicians to put young children first. And we are seeing it across the country that, and not only South Africa, across the world, that children are not put first. And often children are at the end of the resource distribution. And that's very sad, because if we simply did what our policy documents intend to do, those children will grow up strong and healthy. They'll enter the formal school system and they'll fly through. And then we won't get the horrific grade 12 results, which the minister tells us is 76% pass rate. But we know of the cohort of children who start 12 years earlier, it drops down to below 50%. So we just have to do it, and we will then contribute greatly to the child themselves, to families, and to communities. The sad state of affairs is that we're not implementing our policies.
All right, Professor, it seems like we have a long way to go as a country, especially when it comes to implementing policies. I mean, everything looks good on paper, but when will the implementation actually start? Now, what is your advice going forward, especially with the future of ECDs in South Africa?
I think government really needs to sit down and consider what contribution does government want to make to the development of young children. And not only government, business, because the children of today are going to be the employees of 20 years' time. The trade unions, every trade union member, many trade union members, thousands, tens of thousands, will have children. And trade unions can play a part. Communities can play a part. You know, in every community, we've got strengths and assets. And those communities can come together. It can be a auntie living on the corner who can cook a meal for a child who needs it. It can be a grandfather who knows how to play a musical instrument. Or today, for example, is World Read a Story Aloud to Children Day. We can all go into early childhood development centers and, with their permission, read a story to children. So there's lots that we can do on a small scale, but also on a large political scale. But we need to have the desire to do that. And our advocacy and lobbying program, which we started a year ago, intends to make every single South African an activist for children. And if we can do that, I've got no doubt we will strengthen our society.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time, Professor, and have a wonderful day.
Mariam, thank you for what you and Salam Media do. You are staunch supporters of young children, and for that, the country really values you. You are living the Mandela legacy, which the former president left us. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Professor. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Professor Eric Atmore, the Director of the Center for Early Childhood Development and Associate Professor at the Department of Education Policy Studies, taking us through the evolution of early childhood development and what the future looks like for the sector. The future can be brighter if we put the children first. So let us do that, and we will have a better and brighter future. One that has readers, one that has leaders, one that has active participants in the communities, one that has people who want to make a change and see a better and brighter future for everyone. So if you have any comments, you may leave them in the comments section or send them to us on WhatsApp on 061 766 0355. It is 11:29. Please stay with us.